Hi, this video is one of two videos on sleep disturbance. Because sleep disturbance is a complicated issue and the interventions and the reasons for sleep disturbance are different for falling asleep and for staying asleep, I've broken it into two videos. This video is specifically about reasons why you may have difficulty falling asleep and interventions from a holistic perspective to help you learn how to fall asleep easier. In this first video, we will look at the reasons from a mind, body, life holistic perspective that you have difficulty falling asleep. It's important to know what is going on with you. Trying to manage sleep disturbance without understanding the reasons for your sleep disturbance can misguide interventions. So here we will look at a variety of reasons for sleep disturbance and then offer holistic strategies to manage each reason that you could be having sleep disturbance so you can figure out what's going to work best for you in your situation. It can be very frustrating to not be able to fall asleep, and cookie cutter interventions don't always work. So this is an opportunity to be able to learn for yourself what is going on and then be able to match the right intervention for you. We all know that sleep is important for health. A good night's sleep is a game changer. Not getting a good night's sleep, it can be very hard to function, and you can feel so much better with a single good night's sleep. But sleep is a fairly sensitive system, and many things can throw it out of balance. When you are asleep, many important biological and psychological functions occur. First, physically, your body repairs on a cellular level while you are asleep, differently than in any wake state. So you need sleep to be able to physically heal. During sleep, your brain processes and stores memories that occurred throughout the day. Sleep helps regulate hormones, hormones such as stress hormones like cortisol and mind-body hormones like serotonin and estrogen. We need to be at sleep for these hormones to regulate and be prepared for the next day. Sleep improves your immune system, giving you that advantage to help fight off infections. Sleep aids in the processing of thoughts and emotions. And if we don't get good sleep, then thoughts and emotions tend to carry over from day to day. And that quickly leads to a buildup, and we can feel emotionally burdened and overwhelmed. During sleep, your body conserves energy. It lowers the metabolic rate so that you have enough energy for the next day. Sleep enhances cognitive strategies like problem solving and creativity. Getting a good night's sleep helps keep your brain sharp and focused. And sleep is essential for the circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is a 24-hour rhythm of biological processes. The rhythm is set up to maximize benefit from a variety of biological processes throughout the 24-hour cycle. Sleep is one key feature in that. And as sleep gets out of whack, the whole system, the whole 24-hour cycle of biological processes that occurs becomes imbalanced. So sleep is a key feature to keep everything else in balance. The circadian rhythm is influenced by light and dark cycles. However, lifestyle can override those natural forces and throw it out of balance. For that reason, when we discuss the interventions that occur in the daytime are equally as important as the ones that you may do in the evening to help yourself wind down to fall asleep, because the 24-hour cycle of the circadian rhythm, anything you do in that 24 hours is going to influence it. The mind-body system is complex. Everything you think affects how you feel, which affects what you do. This is all driven by your neurochemistry, your hormones, neurotransmitters, nutrients or lack of nutrients, and all of this contributes to your overall health and well-being. Anything in the mind-body system can affect sleep. Your mind needs to relax and get into a different state from wake different brain waves to help facilitate the sleep. The body has to relax. It's a different state than a wake state to be able to sleep. Sleep disturbance happens for many reasons, including seasonal changes, lifestyle changes, anxiety, depression, nutrient deficiencies. There are many reasons for sleep disturbance. It's important to know your nature of sleep disturbance so that you can direct your interventions strategically and mindfully. In this video, I'm going to focus on the reasons that are associated with the sleep disturbance of difficulty falling asleep. The next video is more about difficulty staying asleep. For the most part, the reasons are different for those two different sleep disturbances. In a general sense, the reasons for difficulty falling asleep tend to be more psychological, and the reasons for difficulty staying asleep tend to be more biological, although there are mind-body components to both, and some reasons overlap. Probably the number one reason people have difficulty falling asleep is anxiety. Whether you tend to run a little anxious, have an anxious disposition, or whether we're talking about an anxiety disorder, either way, anxiety tends to be the main reason that people have difficulty falling asleep. Anxiety is a complete mind-body condition. The mind races, it worries, it thinks about what if. All that thought disposition is the opposite of what we want to be able to fall asleep, to be able to shift into the brain waves that are necessary to fall asleep. With anxiety, there's a lot of physical elements that are contrary to falling asleep. There's muscle tension, accelerated heart rate, accelerated breathing rate, short, shallow breathing rate. All of that is the opposite of what we want to have happen to be able to fall asleep. In addition, with anxiety, the chemistry is different. Serotonin, which we'll talk more about in a moment, but also stress hormones get pumped into your system when you're experiencing anxiety. And those are the opposite biochemical disposition than what you want to be able to sleep. Stress and depression are another reason why you may have difficulty falling asleep. With stress and depression, your biochemistry is out of balance, specifically neurotransmitters like serotonin. Serotonin is essential to be able to fall asleep. And when you have stress and depression, I'm lumping these two together, even though there's some different components to both, of course. When you have stress and depression, it makes serotonin not available in your system. It just doesn't stay around to complete all of its processes. And serotonin has a lot of processes to do in your body. One specifically is serotonin in your system. When it turns dark out, the pineal gland comes around and it takes that serotonin and converts it into melatonin. If your serotonin is not available to be utilized in your system because of disruptions like stress and the hormones associated with stress and depression, you're not going to have enough available in your system to convert into melatonin. If you don't have enough melatonin in your system, you're not going to be able to fall asleep and certainly not be able to stay asleep. That's why sometimes you can supplement melatonin with some benefit to helping you fall asleep. But because serotonin and melatonin are a system, supplementing melatonin will only work to some degree and only for a little while. You have to be able to intervene on that whole system. And the intervention point truly is managing that serotonin, making sure it's available in your system. This leads right to the next reason for sleep disturbance, having difficulty falling asleep, and that's nutrient disruption. You need certain nutrients within your system to be able to create the serotonin, the first stage of that system, serotonin to melatonin to sleep. When you are stressed and depressed, the reserves of certain nutrients get used up by that stress and depression system. And therefore, then they're not available to be used to be able to convert into serotonin and into melatonin. So you need to be able to have that nutrient disposition within your system. And some of the building blocks of that are tryptophan, vitamin B, vitamin D. There are many things that help make a serotonin molecule, but you want to have that available and not used up by the stress system. So this is equally important that you make sure you have the right nutrient disposition within your system, the right nutrients available, but also that stress is managed so it's not using up all those reserves that you need to be able to convert into melatonin and be able to get a good night's sleep. The next reason is not listening to your mind body signals that you are ready to fall asleep. This is absolutely a modern lifestyle problem. So often, your body, your mind, and your body will give you signals that it's ready to fall asleep, but you will push past those natural signals to do one more thing or to scroll a little bit longer on your phone. And because the body will adapt to that, if you push past that natural window for your mind body to be able to fall asleep, it will get a second wind. And then it makes it harder to come down to be able to shift back into that mind body disposition to fall asleep. You have different brain waves from wake and sleep. You have different cognitions, you have different chemistry, you have different physiological attributes from wake and asleep. You want to be able to listen and respond to your mind body system that's telling you it's ready to be able to fall asleep. If you push past it, you'll get that second wind and everything will stay activated, and it's much harder to be able to make that system then calm down when you want it to. Now we'll talk about some strategies to help you fall asleep easier. These strategies are mind, body, and holistic. There's definitely some overlaps between them because we can't separate the mind-body system. And like I said before, the interventions that are to be done in the day are equally as important to the wind down strategies. It's not uncommon when you have difficulty falling asleep to focus on doing things in the evening, like a wind down routine, but stuff that happens in the day, because the circadian rhythm is a 24-hour cycle, are equally as important. It's also important to understand your reasons for falling asleep. Hopefully, something I said triggered your understanding of why you're having difficulty falling asleep, so that when we go through these interventions, you will be able to see which ones are probably more useful to you for the reasons that you have difficulty falling asleep. Cookie cutter approaches to managing sleep disturbance don't always work. I want you to have something that's a little more nuanced, a little more individual, so it'll truly help you and what's going on with you. So when I go through these interventions, I'll highlight which intervention is associated more with which reason for sleep disturbance. I'm offering 10 holistic strategies here. Of course, there's more strategies that you can do. I kind of skipped over some of the basic ones that you've probably heard a million times. And you may have heard some of these too, but hopefully these ones will be useful. And again, I'll guide them specifically towards the reasons for the sleep disturbance. But there's no expectation that you're going to do all 10 of these interventions. The more you do, the better. The more levels of the mind-body system that you intervene on, you're going to have a better outcome. But doing even a couple is going to have some benefit. In addition, they're all holistic. And so each intervention will be healthy and beneficial to you anyway for managing sleep, but also just general health. The goal, of course, with this is to help you manage the sleep disturbance, but truly it is to understand the reason for your sleep disturbance and intervene on that level as well. Sleep is natural and healthy. It does get out of balance from time to time, but if there's a chronic reason for that sleep disturbance, it's really important to manage that reason first, or you're always going to be fighting, trying to figure out how to fall asleep. The first strategy is called brain dump. And brain dump is a cognitive strategy. Like I said, the main reason for sleep disturbance of trying to fall asleep, having trouble falling asleep, is because of psychological reasons. The mind tends to be racing. And so it is unbelievably important that you take some of those thoughts and get rid of them. And the brain dump exercise is simply that. No more than 5 minutes, close to right before you're going to bed, You want to write out all of your thoughts. You simply write out a stream of consciousness. This is not a journal in any way, shape, or form. There's no expectation you keep this. It's actually the opposite. You don't want to keep this. So you can use an old notebook or whatever you can find. This is nothing you would write in a nice, pretty journal that you would keep on your shelf and reflect on later. Simply write out everything that you're thinking. Just write it out. It can be in lists, it can be in a paragraph. No reason to censor how that information's coming out. You want to dump it. It's trash. When you're laying in bed trying to go to sleep, you're not going to take action on anything that you're thinking. That's for the next day. You want to be able to free yourself of those thoughts that are going through your mind. And a lot of times you're ruminating on them, they're intrusive, they're nothing useful. So write it all out. And there is something specific to writing it out compared to typing it in. First of all, you don't really want to have an electronic device with you at this stage right before going to bed, but writing it out takes thoughts which are of air and space element. They're floating through your head. Your eyes are associated with the element of fire. It takes those air and space thoughts using your eyes and puts them in earth form. Your mind understands when you do that you put that air and space somewhere. It is now in an earth form. It's not going to try to hold on to it anymore. It's right there. Your eyes saw it go right there. Your mind will then more likely let go of those thoughts. Might sound kind of weird I'm saying that, especially if you're not used to me and my methods. That's what happens. It takes it from air and space. Your eyes convert it through fire element into an earth form, and then it's done. So writing out, not more than 5 minutes, just dump out what you can. And when you're starting this intervention, sometimes you have to do a little bit more, and you'll find as you go on, you only need a couple minutes to accomplish this. But this is the number one strategy, especially if anxiety and having thoughts reeling around in your head is one of the main reasons for your sleep disturbance. Number 2, and one of my favorites, is to get yourself a sleep tonic. Now, sleep tonic will be completely natural. And so my favorite sleep tonic is Sleepy Time Milk. And I have a recipe for this, which I will include. And it's a blend of milk and certain spices. These spices help with digestion, which actually facilitate digesting thoughts and feelings while you're sleeping. And also a little bit of nutmeg in it, which is a natural sedative. If you use whole milk has tryptophan in it. Remember, I was talking about tryptophan being a building block of serotonin, which then can get converted into melatonin. If you use oat milk, there's also some tryptophan in that, or you can use whichever you like. So many elements of a Sleepy Time Milk spice tonic is very beneficial to help fall asleep. If you don't want to do something like that, make yourself a cozy cup of tea. Tea can be something like chamomile, passion flower, valerian root, lemon balm. All of those are medicinal teas that you can have to help create a tonic that will get you to shift over into a mind-body disposition that is more prepared for sleep. So sleep tonic, a drink, is probably my number 2. These aren't exactly in a particular order of like a hierarchy. These are all good. And again, I'm giving you 10. And if you pick and choose a few of them, it's going to have more benefit than doing none. So the next one, I'm calling it number 3, is to make sure that you clear out excess energy. And this is from your whole mind-body system. And this comes from getting regular exercise. Now, exercise is better earlier on in the day because, again, the circadian rhythm, if you can get that done earlier in the day, you're setting up a whole biological disposition to be without excess energy. So having some kind of regular exercise routine. And again, the circadian rhythm is all about balance and rhythm and predictability and schedule. So it doesn't have to be anything hard. And honestly, depending on the stage of life that you're in, you might not want it to be super taxing because that can actually activate a stress response. So something like getting yourself in a regular routine of taking a walk, walking on the treadmill, riding the bike, doing some yoga, whatever your thing is, but regular exercise routine. You can also do YouTube videos. I have plenty of yoga videos and Qigong if you're interested in doing those. As long as it's regular, consistent, predictable, it's going to help get out that excess energy. Next, and we're at number 4, is yoga. And I don't mean a whole yoga class or protocol or anything like that. There is one yoga pose that if you do no other yoga, doing this yoga pose, especially at night, this would be in the nighttime routine, called legs up the wall, is probably one of the most productive yoga poses that you can do for yourself to help yourself get into that mind-body disposition to be ready to fall asleep. It deactivates your system. It helps you get into that rest and digest system, which is the opposite of the stress response system. And it's as simple, and I'm putting a picture in here so you can see what legs up the wall looks like. It is extremely straightforward. You simply find a wall space that you have, and ideally on the floor. You don't necessarily want to do this while you're in bed and kind of laying in bed, because you want a firm floor to be able to support your back and create a little bit of pressure on your spine, your nervous system, to facilitate the benefit of this. So find a spot on the floor, scoot your bum up to the wall, put your legs straight up the wall. Now, if you have tight hamstrings, scoot your bum a little farther away from the wall. You're going to get a good stretch. And it is not what this is about. We do not necessarily want a good stretch in our legs. We don't want a good stretch in our legs. Maybe a little bit of stretch sensation, but that's it. It's more about being in that position and letting go, and spend about 5 minutes in there. If you look up this pose for deactivating your stress system or for sleep benefit, you might see where someone is suggesting you stay for 10 to 15 minutes. I don't advise that. To each their own. If it works for you, that's great. I recommend about 5 minutes. And the reason being is that at a certain point, your legs will start to fall asleep. And so if they do fall asleep, when you come out of it, to get your legs functioning again, to get into bed, is going to be so reactivating to your whole system that it can kind of defeat the purpose. So 5 minutes usually helps give your legs that warming sensation that this pose does, and helps calms down your nervous system. So legs up the wall. If you do want a whole sleep protocol, if this is something available to you, I do have a separate video that does have an entire sleep protocol. I think it's about 10 to 11 minutes long. Next is influencing all 5 physical senses. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I am big on influencing all 5 physical senses for no matter what is going on. So the 5 physical senses are sense of touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. So the sense of touch, to be able to help yourself get ready for bed, is to include things like soft things, heavy things, anything that helps you feel calm and again shifts you into that mind-body state, being ready to fall asleep. Taste, you can use any of the teas or the sleepy time spice blend tonic that I suggested. Those are very calming tastes to help you fall asleep, and they also have then the medicinal values to them. Lavender as a tea can be very calming as well. It's not my thing, but the smell and taste of lavender also help prepare you for sleep. So touch, taste, sense of smell. This one, a lot of times I'll suggest this one more than any of the others, because the sense of smell, the olfactory sense, is directly associated with the emotional centers in your brain and helps activate the neurochemistry. So you can smell certain things, and this can start to create serotonin within your system. You can influence your neurotransmitters best through the olfactory sense. So I, again, have a whole video, because I think this one's so important, on aromatherapy for sleep. But scents like lavender, vetiver, vanilla, chamomile, some of the same with the taste, are very beneficial for the sense of smell. And I recommend that you just use a little bit. I don't think diffusing into your room overnight is the wisest way. But again, you can watch that video. So taste, touch, taste, smell, sight. Of course, you want your room dark. Remember, the circadian rhythm is based on light and dark cycles. And so when it gets dark, that's when the pineal gland starts to shift and convert the serotonin into melatonin. So you do want a dark room. And even in the evening, you want to start to darken. At my house, around 6:30, 7 o'clock, I start turning out all the lights and having dim lights or candlelight or something else to start to trigger my whole family's brains so that we're all better prepared to fall asleep. And then sense of sound. Now, sound can be nothing if you have that available. You don't need sound. But if you have kind of random sounds, like you have pets in the house or other people, or you live in an apartment complex or something where it's just really hard, having white noise is a good idea. I know a lot of people put music on and things like that, but that can have a stimulating effect to certain parts of your brain. So, white noise is probably ideal for sleeping. Next strategy, and we're up to number 6, is mantra. Mantra means mind tool, and it refers to repeating a statement in your head over and over and over again. That's japa. Mantra is repeating over and over. So having something that you say in your head that is useful to help you fall asleep, like the day is done, I'm allowed to rest. I surrender the events of the day. I feel relaxed and calm within my mind and body. Any of those things that you say to yourself is also going to help to get the other thoughts out. You may have heard me say this in other videos if you've watched them. You cannot stop thinking. You cannot push thoughts out of your head or tell yourself to not think that. You have to replace thoughts with thoughts. So if you choose a mantra, a statement that's useful for you to help fall asleep, and say it over and over again and hold your mind space with that thought, you're going to diffuse the other intrusive thoughts that are keeping you awake. So brain dump, of course, but then mantra would be the next level for that. Number 7 is meditation. Meditation is a lot of things. I'm only going to recommend 2 types of meditation to help you fall asleep. Number 1 is a very simple self-guided meditation. And this is where you would want to create an image in your head and hold yourself with that image. For instance, imagining the color of moonlight, a white silvery light. And then in your mind, as you inhale, imagine that light expands. And as you exhale, imagining that light contracts. A simple pulse of the color of moonlight. Lavender or purple would also be a useful image to have with this meditation. Simply inhaling, imagining that color and that light expanding. And as you exhale, imagine it contracting and holding your mind with that. The other meditation that I would recommend to help fall asleep is progressive muscle relaxation. And that's the meditation where you systematically go through your body and squeeze up and tense up parts of your body, especially on the inhale. And then as you exhale, soften and let go. This is helping if you have a hard time letting go of tension, you're just kind of keyed up all the time, this will help facilitate that process. Sometimes you have to put more in and draw extra attention to the tension and then pair it up with that mindful relaxation. So a simple self-guided meditation or progressive muscle relaxation for meditations to help you fall asleep. A lot of people will play guided meditations. If that works for you, that's great. But when you're listening to someone else, you're keeping more neurons firing. So it's just not one that I personally recommend. Number 8 is setting a mind-body-life filter. Everything you consume affects you. Everything you see, touch, taste, smell, hear. And so setting a filter for yourself that you cut off as much outside influence as possible, ideally an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed. Now, this includes things that you consume through what you eat and what you look at and what you listen to, kind of everything. So turning off your social media easily a couple hours before it's time to go to bed, not eating right before to bed, and besides the sleep tonics, those you can have about an hour before to bed, an hour and a half before to go to bed is usually an ideal window for that. But setting up that filter to stop all consumption an hour to at least or 2 hours to at least 1 hour before you go to bed. Number 9. Number 9 is a breathing technique, and this is a breathing technique that is specific to falling asleep. This is my favorite one. I get a lot of feedback about how useful this breathing technique is, and it's called triangle breath. And the way you perform it is you inhale for the count of 5, you hold for the count of 3, and you exhale for the count of 7. The reason you do that is you inhale for the count of 5 because between 5 and 6 seconds is the ideal amount of time to completely fill your lungs. That way you've taken in a full restorative breath. 3 seconds you hold your breath. The body does not want to retain the breath. It is not comfortable. But because of that, 3 seconds will gather up all your attention. So if your mind's on other things, it's going to go into like, ooh, I don't want to hold my breath. It's only 3 seconds. And then you exhale for 7. 7 is the longest, so you're decompressing, you're calming and soothing your nervous system. So 5 to get a complete breath in, 3 to gather up all your attention, but not so long you're holding that you actually activate a stress response. And then 7 to have that nice, calming, soothing, decompressing exhale. So it's triangle breath, 5, 3, 7. I get a lot of reports that about 10 of these and you're done, you're out, you fall asleep. This is a really effective breathing strategy to help you fall asleep. The last strategy, number 10, is to influence your chemistry. This is complicated. There are so many things that you can do. There's so much information about food and mood and how your chemistry affects all mind, body, life systems. Specifically, I'm going to talk about just 2 things. One is GABA. GABA is an amino acid that helps create an inhibitory effect in your system. And so if you make sure that you're consuming foods that have GABA in them, it's going to facilitate this process. You can supplement it. I tend to not go that route if you can avoid that, but it is an option to be able to supplement L-GABA. That's how it would be said. There's always an L when you're talking about amino acids. And it's usually a little like tablet that you just put under your tongue and it dissolves and you take it right when you're about to go to sleep. The effect of that, I'll just tell you, just so you have some more information, but please do more research on it. Make sure it's right for you, is that what happens is when you take that L-GABA, you kind of notice your thoughts are just going a little bit more in slow motion, which does help facilitate your ability to fall asleep because it is an inhibitory style amino acid. But GABA shows up in sunflower seeds. So my recommendation, and sunflower seeds have a lot of nutritional benefit, is to see if you can incorporate it into your diet. There are plenty other ways to get it as well. Go look it up. What foods have GABA in them? But I recommend if you can have sunflower seeds, about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, you can put that in other food. You can blend it up. You can make those really nice little like date and seed balls, which is a great nutritious snack and easy to take with you. Has a decent kind of desk life where you just leave it on your desk for the day and snack on it throughout the day. However, try to get a little bit of GABA in your system. And the other one is tryptophan. Like I mentioned, that's a precursor to serotonin, which is a precursor to melatonin. And just being mindful of the foods that you consume that have tryptophan. Again, go look this up for yourself. Do a little bit of research on this. But some of my favorite sources are oats. Oats have tryptophan in them. If it's winter months, it's kind of easy to get oatmeal if you're interested in that. Some in oat milk. That is found in whole milk, dairy milk. I guess we have to specify that these days. Turkey, that's famous, right? Like it's in turkey, which is why you fall asleep on Thanksgiving. You get sleepy on Thanksgiving because you eat turkey, and then there's tryptophan in that, which supports that whole biochemical disposition. So turkey, chicken, eggs, milk, oats, and there's other sources too. So trying to influence your biochemistry a bit through nutrition can be useful to help you fall asleep. So those are 10 holistic interventions that you can use. Again, no expectation to do them all. The more you do, the better. Making sure that you do understand what's going on with your sleep disturbance so that you can specifically target that, take care of that as best you can, and then also use the interventions that are more aligned with what is going on with you. And then I'm going to end with this one final thought. If you can't fall asleep, if you're still struggling and these interventions are not working and nothing's working, while you're figuring out what's going on and finding the right interventions, if you can't sleep, it is an ideal opportunity to meditate. Meditation is simply directing your focus in a mind-body, a holistic way. So lay in bed, and rather than getting upset that you can't fall asleep, focus on your breath. Do the guided imagery. If you can get yourself in a relaxed mind-body state, the brain waves are almost the same as sleep. You will feel rested. There is evidence that doing certain meditations like a yoga nidra, which is like a yogic sleep specific meditation, 30 minutes of that is the equivalent to 4 hours of sleep. So if you can't sleep, meditate. Then you're still likely to feel like that time isn't wasted. You're not just fussing and trying to fall asleep. You're doing something productive that's going to contribute to your rest. I hope you found this video useful. I hope these holistic strategies help you out. I have a lot of other videos on different things. And again, aligned with this, I do have a specific video on aromatherapy to help sleep and a yoga protocol to help sleep. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I hope this was useful. Thank you.